Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Presenting Our Presence. Presenting Our Presence is POP. It is the vodcast through the Office of Indigenous Programming and Research. Usually I am hosting with my wonderful co-host Florence. She is off today, so we are joined by another wonderful co-host today. And we're really excited to get this going. So my name is Michelle Durocher. I'm from the Fishing Lake Métis Settlement. And at the university, I work in the president's office. I'm the executive operations coordinator. And we're really excited to get going today. So I'll turn it over to my co-host to introduce themselves in the way that's comfortable. Thanks.
Thank you, Michelle. I am MorningStar Willier. I am from Sucker Creek First Nation, so originally from Treaty 8. And I work within Indigenous recruitment, and I am specifically the Indigenous recruitment events coordinator. And I am a fancy field trip planner for a lot of Indigenous students to campus, and it's the best, truthfully. But I'm going to pass it over to Emma so that they can introduce themselves in whatever way they feel comfortable.
Hi, my name is Emma. I am a member of the Métis Nation of Alberta, and I am also Cree on my dad's side from Mistawassa's First Nation. I am the Student Services Advisor from the Faculty of ALES, and I am here today. I'm very excited to be here today with both of you doing this podcast. It's my first time doing anything like this. I do perform music, but that is very structured, and there's always something where you know exactly what you're saying and what you're doing, so this is very new to me.
So tell us a little bit more how you ended up at ALES as a student advisor. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. So I have always worked on campus during my whole degree. I worked in Discovery at the Faculty of Engineering, which was really fun. That's the kids' camps. And that was a great experience. Even though my degree was not in engineering, I'm an arts kid, so it was very out of my field of expertise, but so much fun. And then after I graduated, I worked at the Student Service Center, which is kind of advising for all of the faculties. And then a couple years later, I ended up seeing a job offer for ALES, and I wanted to kind of narrow my advising field, so I had more of a caseload, and I was lucky enough to end up here, and I did graduate advising at first, and now I'm doing undergraduate advising again, so it's very exciting. Yeah.
That's really cool. So you started where MorningStar is, because MorningStar is in Central.
Yeah. Yes and no. I work alongside, recruitment works alongside Student Service Center, but Student Service Center is more of like the front-facing, or I'm sure Emma actually can speak to it better than I can.
Yeah, so the Student Service Center is kind of the front-facing part of Central. So we did a lot of work for admissions and work for the records registration and fees department, and work for recruitment in terms of helping students do their applications and connecting them with recruitment. And that was kind of the next step. So if students were recruited through recruitment and they had any questions about their application or the university or anything like that, then they would kind of come to us. So yeah, it was a very fun, very exciting experience, but I also love having a caseload and kind of having my students now that I work with and that I recognize, and building relationships with those students. So yeah, it's very fun.
More personalized as well, I imagine.
Yeah.
That's really cool, because I used to, one of my first jobs on campus was in biological sciences. And so I was in the undergrad office. And so I saw all the student advisors. They all were in the same office with me as well. So it was really cool to see, like you're saying, building those relationships and kind of helping these students continue on their, academic journey. What are some of your favorite things about being in that role and what you get to see?
Yeah, I do think that building relationships is one of my favorite things. I think it's really important to build that trust with the students and kind of having students that come back. Usually students who access advising are students who access advising more than once. So you get to see students throughout their degree cycle, and they're excited to come into the faculty, and they don't really know how to pick classes. And so you kind of go through all of that with them, and then seeing them build that confidence and go forward and know how to access different things, or maybe go abroad, or maybe they're interested in individual study with a professor, and it's fun to see them kind of go on that journey. Or even students who realize that they need to access accommodations, and they're struggling, and helping them do that and helping them build confidence that way. I think it's really rewarding, and I really enjoy seeing that, and then doing some of the admin work behind the scenes to help students as well. So kind of identifying where those pain points might come up, where there's a class that a lot of students want to be in, but it's a little bit too small right now, and helping figure out how to make that class size bigger so that more students can go into it, and figuring out all of those little things behind the scenes where if everything is working well, the students have no idea that we're doing. That's always rewarding as well.
It's like you're a problem solver, but in secret.
Yes.
I love that. I love thinking of it that way, because truthfully, the university would not function or run as smoothly without positions like you or people like you. So I, as a student and a graduate now, and just someone working within recruitment and the U of A, you guys truly are the ones that make the difference. So thank you.
Thank
Um,
you.
but I want to ask, because you talked about working on campus throughout your undergrad, what is your undergrad in? And kind of in the sense of something that I really like to think about for myself is being who I needed when I was younger. And so I want to ask, throughout your undergrad, was there anybody that you stuck with that like really made the difference in the way that you are making the difference in some of your students' case?
Sure, that's a really great question. So my undergrad was in psychology and sociology. I double majored. And it was a huge thing for me to have people that I could rely on, because in my last year of my undergrad, I actually had a stroke. And that was a huge, huge thing for me. It was a transient ischemic attack, so a TIA. So the stroke itself didn't last as long, but the after effects of it were quite stunning. So I had trouble with typing because the left side of my body didn't match up with the right side of my body anymore, and kind of putting things together in comprehensive ways. So writing essays was really difficult for me, and it was just all of these things that had come very fluid for me before, and that I built up on throughout my all my years of undergrad and high school and everything were kind of out of reach now. And so a lot of my professors were very kind to me and helped me through and gave me extensions on assignment when I needed them, and really helped me. And connecting with the faculty was also huge, because at the time the Academic Success Center didn't have the capacity to help with things that were temporary. They do now. They've really expanded their services, but it was really relying on the faculty and relying on my professors that really got me through and got me to graduation. And so I really appreciate that, and I think about that a lot when I'm working with my students and bringing that energy in and kind of being the person that I needed when I was going through school, and making sure that I'm always there to listen to their concerns and listen to what they're going through, and helping them connect to the resources that they need. Because you never know, life happens, and life can happen in extraordinary ways when you're going through school. It's not just the typical student that you think of being like the 18-year-old student with no responsibilities. That doesn't really exist anymore. So it's really important to be there and really listen to those students and help them.
Thank you, Emma. That was a great answer and very inspiring as well. I especially liked how you talked about how that typical student doesn't really exist anymore, because even like throughout my time within recruitment, I truly, truly believe in that statement. There are so many different complexities that are existing within life now, that not it's making it very hard for people to have the privilege of only being able to focus on university while they're in university.
Yes. Yeah, I completely agree with that. And whether it's working to support someone's family or whether it's mental health concerns or a variety of different things, really, the students that we're seeing are dealing with a lot of different things and having to balance that in school and balancing that in 5 classes. It's not really realistic anymore. So I see a lot more students who are taking like 4 classes and 3 classes and just trying to get through their degree. And I think that's going to become the norm is students who are taking less classes but dealing with more responsibilities. And I think that we can really kind of pivot as an institution to recognize that. And I think we are pivoting as an institution to recognize that.
Yeah, definitely.
So you were talking about the different kinds of students that you're seeing, and I think it's good that you both are noticing that the way that the university is set up is working in a better way for those kinds of students that have different needs, that have different responsibilities, that are coming from maybe they're coming from a place of like this not understanding this kind of uh, university life and thinking that maybe they didn't belong here, but are seeing, oh no, this place can work for me. And Star and I, we talked about this in your episode, right? Of making this a place where students see themselves. So I was just wondering, Emma, do you talked about having these different seeing students over and over and over again. Do you have any like stories or anything that you would like to share of maybe someone at the end of their journey and anything that they've shared with you about how student advising, how this helps them to succeed?
I haven't been here long enough to really see a lot of students to the end of their journey. Um, but I do know that there's a student, one in particular that I've been working with who shared with me that student advising has really helped her. She she was working through quite a lot with her family and she was working to support them. And that working to support them had kind of caused her grades to suffer a little bit because of course when you're balancing like your family and school and everything like that, it's quite a lot. But she was able to get funding through the university and scholarships and everything like that because we've tailored our scholarships now to not just be about academic achievement. And and so that was really great to see. And now she doesn't have to work anymore to support her family. She's able to kind of do what she needs to do through scholarships and everything like that. And even some of our supplementary bursary programs and everything have helped her. Um, and also like connecting with us and being able to be connected to those resources that she didn't know about before has been really helpful for her. And now she's able to just focus on school and she's been able to do really, really well with school. So I think that that's one of the examples of how the university has kind of changed its its outlook on things. So it's not just about scholarly achievement anymore. We've recognized that students are doing a lot of different things and that they're doing great things to impact their community and that we're kind of the piece that helps students recognize that there are those resources out there, um, and that students are able to access those resources and then in turn do great in their scholarship. Um, and it's just great to see. And she's really flourishing now. She's doing really well. Before she was quite overwhelmed. So I'm very happy that she's doing so well.
Yeah, that's wonderful because why I'm asking why this came up in my head is because I'm going back and thinking about my own undergraduate experience. And
Hmm.
when I graduated, my friend and I graduated at the same time, we took our student advisor out for lunch to
Oh,
thank,
that's so nice.
yeah, to thank her for the years of support. And she was just such a wonderful, sweet person and so comforting. Like she was just, just nice to just go and sit in her office and just kind of download some things if you needed to. And she would be, okay, well, here's what we can do and here's what you can change. And, like it was so helpful. And yeah, at the end of, our 4-year degree, we're like, I think we need to take this woman out for a bite. And she was so sweet and so, generous, and she was so thoughtful. So I was just thinking about that and just wondering, yeah, it's like maybe that'll be an experience that Emma gets to have, because it sounds like
Aw.
you're doing wonderful things for these students. So I just am like wondering, has that appreciation come out yet? Or like you said, maybe it's still a little early uh, in this role for you to kind of see things to the end yet.
Yeah, I have gotten a lot of like thank yous, and I've gotten a few chocolate bars, which have been very nice. Um, so that's always great to have that appreciation in whatever form it comes in. So,
To speak more to how there's not like a cookie cutter student anymore, do you find that the more difference you are experiencing in students in regards to just what they're studying, the classes that they're taking, their life experiences, are you finding that the faculty of ALES is like, for lack of a better word, being more enriched? Because I like when looking on campus, anybody, it's like you can very much see that there is so much more of a diversity than there was potentially when I was a student. Not in just like people, but in like actual culture that exists on campus, the way people are dressing, the way people are interacting with one another. Like, are you able to see that on like a student level as the advisor and somebody who works directly within a faculty?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I do think that it is really enriching the experience for students. I see a lot of our student clubs are very like diverse now, and there's a lot of students who are feeling like they can be more involved. Um, we did used to have kind of this reputation as like the agriculture faculty and the faculty of like rural values, and we're kind of seeing that now as like what are rural values, what is our faculty. And I think the students are really kind of redefining what our faculty means, because there's so many different aspects to it. Like we have human ecology, we have dietetics, we do have agriculture, but we have like sustainable agriculture now. We have so many different programs. And I think the students are really, they're exploring that, and we're getting so many different people who are interested in so many different aspects of our faculty that is really expanding what our faculty means and what our faculty values are. And it's really wonderful to see that and see that culture and see all of those different students in the hallway and see like all those different perspectives come in. I think it's always better when you have more perspectives.
Mhm.
And I really enjoy talking to the students and seeing all of their different life experiences and hearing about all of their different life experiences. And I only think that that can make things better. I really think that it's wonderful, and it's a great thing to have.
Recruitment, Indigenous recruitment has had a meeting with a bunch of representatives from the faculty of ALES, and
Mhm.
they told us that, like, in regards to faculty population, ALES actually has one of the highest Indigenous student populations as a faculty. So, like,
Yes.
that's pretty cool, actually. And I wonder how that's impacted this culture and enrichment of the faculty as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we do have one of the highest Indigenous student populations. I mean, we are a smaller faculty, so I
But
think
still,
that is a bit of a caveat, but we have a lot of Indigenous students, and I think that comes out in like the events that we host. That comes out in the classes that we have. We have classes that are for Indigenous perspectives, and we have our Indigenous Students in STEM Association, which is made up of a lot of ALE students. And we also have our medicine garden. So those are a lot of initiatives that we have hosted. I'm planning to host an Indigenous tea for our students, which I think is going to be really lovely to kind of bring everyone together. And I think that you can really feel a sense of community with our Indigenous students, which is really wonderful. I'm very proud of our Indigenous students, and I think that it's a really wonderful thing to have. We're we're very positive about our environment. We're very positive about a lot of different things that very much align with Indigenous values. So I think that that is another reason why our faculty is very attractive to Indigenous students, is that like a we're very much values-driven faculty, and we're very community-based, and we're very based on the land, and we have a lot of experiences where we try to really work with Indigenous communities. So I think that in that way we're very attractive to Indigenous students, and I think we really want to stay that way. Like we really want to work with Indigenous communities and make sure that our students are very supported and that we continue in that direction. So, yeah.
I love that. We always speak very highly of faculty of ALES too, and I believe it used to be referred to as the U of A's best kept secret because not many people knew about like the Faculty of Agricultural Life and Environmental Sciences. So I love that it's kind of being more well known now because it is a wonderful faculty and you guys have phenomenal values. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I know when I was a student, I had a friend who was in dietetics, and that was like all I knew about ales. And now that I'm working here, I feel so accepted and so included in everything, and it just feels like my home. I really wish that I'd known about it as a student more than like the agriculture and just the dietetics side of things. There's so much going on, and it's a really wonderful place. So,
Yeah, and having that feeling in a faculty as a student makes all of the difference, truthfully.
absolutely.
I was actually going to ask that about if you knew had any ideas on how many Indigenous students are in your faculty specifically. So that's cool that you guys are kind of already recognizing that that is a population that needs to be, the growth needs to be fostered in that area. So that's really cool. So as we were talking about that Indigenous student in ALES, we were talking about some of the values and some of the like land-based teachings and stuff that are kind of more featured in the ALES faculty than others. Are there any other things like are there any other practices or anything that go on in ALES that would be, kind of interesting and intriguing for Indigenous students looking to make their decision on where they're going to go?
Yeah, so we have quite a few things that I could highlight. I think one of the things that is very interesting for our students is the opportunity to go up north and work with different communities up north. So we have our program. It's a semester in the north, so you can go work up in the Yukon for a semester in the north and take classes up there at Yukon University, and work with different Indigenous communities up there. You can also do a week up in the north if a semester in the north seems like a little bit too long for you. So that's run our 465, and you can contact, Gabriel Rivest about that and go work for a week in the north. I say work, but it's more studying and doing all sorts of fun things. You're not like putting your nose to the books. It's a lot of hands-on learning. Um, and uh, and so those are two opportunities that are really great that you can do in your degree. You can also do our Northern Systems major, which is completely up in the Yukon. So if you're interested in doing things up there, that's definitely an opportunity that you can do. We do also have field schools. So if you're interested in forestry, if you're interested in environmental conservation sciences, you can do our field school opportunities, and those work with Indigenous communities as well. So those are really great opportunities for all students. We're working on more opportunities that students can work with Indigenous communities and really get your boots on the ground, but it's a very much a hands-on kind of experience in ALES, and we really work to make sure that it's a hands-on experience. So even if you aren't working with Indigenous communities directly through those experiences, you are getting a lot of hands-on opportunities, and you're making sure that you're working with the land and that you're really learning stuff that's going to help you in the future, whether you're in the field or whether you're consulting or however you want your life to take you. But we really want you to be knowledgeable, and we want you to be out there, and we want you to be learning things that are going to help you. And of course, Indigenous people have always been here. We've always been here, and we've always been stewards of the land. So ALES is very aware of that.
that was kind of where your train of thought followed my train of thought. That the Indigenous ways of knowing seem that they would really fit in that faculty.
Yes.
There are definitely other faculties where I think it is a little bit more. Um, I don't want to say a challenge, but it's less kind of. Uh,
It's almost like harder to
yeah,
integrate these values. And it's also, I want to speak specifically to ALES and Native Studies, is these are two faculties that very much acknowledge and respect Indigenous embodied knowledge and perceive it as the same level as this Western level of education,
Yeah.
from my understandings.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have our combined degree as well with Native Studies. So we're very much working together with Native Studies and making sure that students have an opportunity to take Native Studies classes and ALES classes that are very much aligned. So it's a good feeling to be in ALES. I really enjoy it, and I think that it's a good faculty um, if you're Indigenous for sure.
yeah, that's so cool. I didn't know about a combined degree. That is really cool too. Just
Yeah.
learning all kinds of new things today. So that's wonderful.
Okay, Emma, I want to kind of ask you more about your degree, your double major with psychology and
Mhm.
sociology. I'm very curious as to what it is that drew you to those majors and those topics, and if you have a favorite course that you took. And kind of like,
Ooh.
yeah, I know that's always a difficult question. It's you kind of have to think about it a little, but it's really interesting and it makes you kind of reminisce. But not only am I interested in what like brought you there, your favorite course, but I'm also interested in how you went from psychology and sociology into like student services in regards to student advising and where you see the connection between them.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll start with what drew me into psychology and sociology. So I have always been interested in kind of what goes on in people's brains. There's been a lot of mental illness in my family, and I think that that's been kind of interesting for me to understand further. Like I just want to understand people and help people, and that's always been kind of at the core of my being is I just want to help people. So when I went into psychology, I was kind of planning on being a therapist, and that has been my goal for a long time. And then sociology is kind of the psychology of groups of people, so it just sort of felt like a natural thing to pick up. Um, and then I love them both so much I couldn't choose, so I had to double major in them. My favorite course when I was in that program was the sociology of art. That one was so fascinating. It was picking up on people who had traveled. Um, we studied particularly this person who traveled all across North America and had taken pictures of people in different situations, and we studied the sociology behind the pictures because they were all trying to say something about different sociological circumstances, and that was just so fascinating to me. And then we were talking about like different mixed media, and we were talking about different Indigenous people who had done similar things with like different mixed media and wampum belts, and it was so fascinating to me, that whole course and how you could really say something about different societies and different circumstances using art. Now, I'm not really an artist. I can't do very much with my hands. I am very much a beginner at ribbon skirts, and I can sort of bead, but not very well. So that's kind of a distant dream of mine, but I would love to be able to do something like that one day. Um, Leading into student services, I was sort of looking for a transitional job at first because I knew I wanted to take some time off between going to school and the next step of going to school. So I got into student services, and then I discovered I really loved it. It was something that I could really use my degree in because there's a lot of students who are going through difficult circumstances, And I just really enjoyed the relationship building aspect of it. I enjoyed being able to help people in a um, really immediate way. And I really enjoyed being able to navigate systems and problem solve. Like I like puzzles, and it just feels like one big puzzle with the institution and kind of figuring out different ways that you can navigate different things. So when I got the opportunity to go to ALES, it felt like I could really use my degree even more because it's a more of a relationship building. You have less students, so you can really see how students interact, and you can kind of get closer into the policies and everything like that. And it was really a good experience to use my degree. So I see them as being very connected. I think having that not having that typical student anymore um, is really a good a good way to kind of use that psychology background, because there are so many students who are going through such tough times right now trying to balance everything. So really a lot of times students are in my office, it's a little bit like a therapy session because you're talking through things, you're listening to students, you're suggesting like different things that they could do, different resources they could access. And sometimes you're just there to listen, and that's just as important too. So I really see them all as being very connected. Um, and yeah, that was big answer.
That's a wonderful answer, though. You answered everything perfectly. I also want to say that I really appreciate your authenticity. Like I
Thanks.
can really, like, I'm sure Michelle's the same way, actually. We can really tell that you genuinely are passionate about it, what it is that you do. And I'm curious in the sense of you've mentioned relationship building throughout our entire time together. And so we're all aware that relationships and kinship and the building of such and the maintaining of such is such an inherent Indigenous way of living and existing. So, do you find through your work, through connecting with students, that it kind of fulfills you and has you grow as a person, like as an Indigenous person specifically?
I do. I do. I find that I can really live my values as an Indigenous person with my work. And I think that that is very important to me. Um, Having moments like these as well with the podcast and the teas that we do, and I've been able to start up a beading group with Kaylee Morissette. Things like that really allow me to live authentically as an Indigenous person at the U of A, and just know that it is an institution, but it's an institution that's full of people, and
Mm-hmm.
it's full of people who care, and it's a really great place to be, I think. Um, I know that it was very different when my dad was going to school here, and I'm just really proud of how far we've come, and just being able to live as an Indigenous person in this space, I think is really special to me.
And just the mere existence of you within this space is, I think, the biggest contributor to the change that this institution has done.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I also think that this podcast, the teas that Florence hosts, they give us that opportunity to build community when we are all in different areas. We work sometimes siloed, right? You're the only Indigenous person in your office, which is the case in my office.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really amazing to get these opportunities to connect with other Indigenous people on campus and get that sense of community, right? We are a community, even though we are kind of separated from each other, like in where we stand, but we get to connect in these areas, and I think that's really important. I think it's very necessary, to, like you're saying, to feel that sense of belonging here.
For sure.
I also
Yeah.
want to add that in this same realm, having an Indigenous person in like a student-facing position who's like directly dealing with students does so much for, like, I'm sure an Indigenous student, just the simple representation of them being like, hey, I see other people that are like me in these positions working with this institution. And I imagine it just gives them kind of this sense of belief within themselves and like a safety.
Yeah. Yeah, I do have Indigenous students who, like, once I tell them I'm Métis, they they prefer to come back to me, and I think that that's really nice. That's really great relationship building thing is like having those students and knowing that they're comfortable talking to me and knowing that they have a safe space. No matter what happens, if something happens in their class, they have someone that they can talk to about it. I think is really important.
Yeah, I have this conversation with Paul Garreau about that, about relationality and about breaking down those little barriers between people. Um, and they exist in different ways. So as you're saying, like, oh, once they find out that I'm Métis, that is the barrier that has been broken down, right? That now they're like, there's a lot easier way to connect once they already know that you have that kind of relationship with them. I find the same thing with groups of women. I find it easier to then connect with women because we've already got that thing in common, right? So it's
Hmm.
it's all those little things there that kind of break down our barriers, break down our silos in this institution, because otherwise we all feel very uh, kind of in our own little boxes and everybody does their own thing. But this podcast, Florence's office, I think for Indigenous folks, that brings us all together. And I think that's very important.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The power of intersectionality.
Yes.
exactly. So another thing that we've talked about, and I just wanted to just bring back quickly, when you and I had spoken earlier, we talked about that helping students through mental health challenges. And I just wondered, what are some of the ways that you have broached that subject, and what are some of the things that you can do for Indigenous and non-Indigenous students, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think just asking students, like, how are you doing? Are you okay? Um, those can be very powerful words. And just having those conversations, not being afraid of them, I think is really important because you never know what students are going through. And sometimes you can see it with students, sometimes you can't because some students are really good at hiding it. Um, but usually when you ask if students are ready to talk about it, they'll tell you. They'll tell you what's going on. And just not being afraid to say, like, are you safe? Are you in danger? Like those things are really important to ask as well. And then connecting them to resources. There's counseling and clinical services on campus, which offers one at a time therapy sessions that are really great. Sometimes students could get them as early as like the next day if they really need them. Um, there's also the Peer Support Center, which is really great. And of course, the Student Success and Experience Center, they can connect them to a care coordinator, and that person can connect them to all of the resources that they need as well and make it a lot less overwhelming for the students. So if you know that there's a student who has maybe not been coming to class, if you're a professor, and maybe you missed a midterm, feel free to reach out to your student services office. Like that's part of what we're here for as well. We can reach out to the student on your behalf and just say like, hey, we've heard someone's been a little bit concerned about you. We just want to make sure that you're okay, whether that's an email or just asking them to come in person. We can do that. And just making sure that those conversations are had because those conversations can make all the difference for a student, just knowing that someone cares about them and is worried about them.
The importance of not letting them slip through the cracks.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. It's been a long time since I was a student, so it's really cool to hear about all of these amazing resources, and that you're so knowledgeable, Emma. And Morningstar has touched on this. You are in the right place. What you're doing is what you should be doing. I think you're doing a wonderful job. It sounds like you have the information that they need, and you have the personality and everything that they need to feel comfortable and to thrive. So that's really cool.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that a lot.
So I just want to say thank you again for your time, for sharing your passions, your knowledge. Hi. We really appreciate it. And like I just said earlier, you are the right person in the right job. So thank you.
Yeah, I echo everything that Michelle has said. And again, want to just thank you for your authenticity. It really shows. And it's very obvious that you're very, very much a warm person, and I can completely understand why students would come to you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time for both of you, and I just really appreciate you having this podcast and being here. So hi.
Exemaga.
Exit.